This is Rise and Fall Football Stories. Everyone says playing at home is a dream, but what if? It's actually the biggest risk, because history shows something most people ignore. For some teams, the crowd doesn't lift them. It crushes them. The noise gets louder, the expectations rise faster, and suddenly, every mistake feels bigger than it actually is. And for the United States, hosting the 2026 World Cup isn't just an opportunity. It's pressure at a level they've never experienced before, because this isn't just about playing well. It's about carrying an entire nation's belief in real time. And when that pressure peaks, the game changes. Decisions get slower, moments slip, control disappears. So this isn't just a tournament. This is a test. A moment that could prove everything the United States believes about itself or expose how far they still have to go. And this isn't just a theory, because history has already shown what can happen when playing at home turns into pressure instead of advantage. In the FIFA World Cup 2014, everything was set up for Brazil to succeed. The crowd was massive. The expectation was absolute. This wasn't just about winning. It was about delivering for an entire nation. And for a while, it worked. Until it didn't. Because when things started to go wrong, the energy in the stadium didn't lift the team. It changed. The noise became tension. The expectation became weight. And suddenly, every mistake felt amplified, every moment heavier than it should have been. That's how pressure works at home. It doesn't disappear, it builds. And Brazil wasn't the only example. Go back to the FIFA World Cup 2002. Japan had the support, the environment, the belief. But when the knockout stage arrived, the pressure shifted. The game tightened. The expectation didn't help. It forced decisions, rushed moments, and a level of tension that's hard to manage. That's the pattern. Because playing at home doesn't just give you support, it raises the stakes. And for teams that aren't used to carrying that level of expectation, it can become a problem. Not immediately, but in moments. Moments where the game slows down for everyone else, but speeds up for you. And that's what makes this dangerous. Because the United States isn't just hosting a World Cup. It's stepping into a situation where history suggests one thing. Home advantage can help you, but it can also break you. And this is where everything starts to shift. Because pressure doesn't feel dangerous at the beginning. At first, it feels like energy. The crowd is loud. The stadium is full. Every touch gets a reaction. Every forward pass gets encouragement. It feels like the game is moving with you. And that can help, but only for a while. Because the moment something goes wrong, the feeling changes. Imagine this. The United States starts a match strong. The tempo is good. The movement is clear. The crowd is behind them. Everything feels under control. Then one mistake happens. A pass gets intercepted. A transition opens up. The opponent creates a chance. Nothing major. But now the reaction is different. The noise doesn't disappear. It sharpens. The expectation becomes visible. And suddenly, the next decision matters more than it should. That's when hesitation appears. A player takes one extra touch instead of passing. A run is delayed by a second. The rhythm that felt natural a few minutes ago starts to break apart. And at this level, that's enough. Because once the game starts speeding up in your head, you're no longer controlling it. You're chasing it. That's the real danger of playing at home. Not the opponent, but the moment where the pressure stops helping and starts changing how you play. And for a team like the United States, that moment isn't theoretical, it's coming. So what does the United States actually have going into this tournament? On paper, it looks better than ever. More players in top leagues, more technical quality, more speed in transition. A group that is younger, sharper, and far more comfortable with the ball than previous generations. That matters, because under pressure, ability becomes your first layer of control. If you can move the ball quickly, if you can escape tight spaces, if you can recognize patterns faster than your opponent, you give yourself a chance to manage the moment instead of being overwhelmed by it. And this team can do that. But that's only part of the story, because having tools isn't the same as using them at the right time. Imagine a knockout match. The game is tight, the crowd is loud, the margin is gone. This is where decisions define everything. Do you keep possession and slow the game down? Or do you push forward and try to break it open? That choice sounds simple, but under pressure, it isn't. because now the decision isn't just tactical, it's emotional. And that's where teams get exposed. Because the United States has the ability to play in multiple ways. It can press, it can counter, it can control possession in phases. But switching between those identities at the right moment, under pressure, is a different challenge entirely. And that's what this tournament will test. Not what they have, but how clearly they can use it when everything speeds up. And if everything starts to align, playing at home can still become the biggest advantage this team has. Because when the energy is controlled, it transforms the game. Imagine this. The United States steps onto the pitch and the crowd is loud, but not overwhelming. The rhythm is clear. The passes are sharp. The decisions come early, not late. Instead of reacting to the noise, the team moves with it. That's when it works. Because now the pressure doesn't control the players. The players control the moment. You can see it in small details. A midfielder takes one touch instead of two. A winger attacks space immediately instead of hesitating. The defensive line stays high because they trust what's happening in front of them. And suddenly, the game feels different. The opponent starts to feel it too, because playing away in that environment becomes uncomfortable. Every touch is pressured, every mistake gets amplified. The same energy that could have created tension now creates momentum. That's the best case scenario. Not domination, control, because at this level, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay clear when everything around you gets louder. And if the United States can hold that clarity, if it can manage the emotional side of the game instead of being pulled into it, then playing at home doesn't just help, it changes everything. But the same energy can turn just as quickly, and when it does, the effect is immediate. Imagine the opposite scenario. The United States starts slowly. The passes aren't as sharp. The timing is just slightly off. Nothing major, but enough to feel different from the start. The crowd is still loud, but now, it's not lifting the team, it's waiting, and that's where the pressure begins to change. Because when expectation hangs in the air, every small mistake feels bigger. A misplaced pass doesn't just reset the play, it triggers reaction. A missed chance doesn't just disappear, it stays in the moment. That's how tension builds, and once it starts, it spreads. A player hesitates instead of playing forward. Another takes an extra touch instead of releasing the ball. The rhythm slows, not because the opponent controls it, but because the team is no longer fully confident in its decisions. And that's when the game shifts. Because at this level, hesitation is enough. The opponent senses it. The pressure increases. The space becomes tighter. And now, instead of playing freely, the United States is reacting to everything around it. That's the danger. Because once the game speeds up in your mind, you stop controlling it on the pitch. And in a World Cup match, that's all it takes. Not a collapse. Just a few moments where the pressure turns and the game moves away from you. And this is where the real problem appears. Because pressure doesn't just affect performance, it changes decision-making. At this level, every player already has the ability. They know how to pass, how to move, how to recognize space. That's not the issue. The issue is what happens when the moment feels heavier than it should. Because under pressure, the brain doesn't work the same way. Decisions that are normally automatic become delayed. A pass that should be played instantly gets held for half a second longer. A run that should happen naturally is hesitated. A simple option becomes complicated, and that's all it takes. Because the game doesn't wait. Imagine a situation where the United States wins the ball in midfield. In a normal moment, the transition is immediate. The pass is played forward. The attack develops before the defense is set. But under pressure, that same moment slows down. The player looks up, thinks, doubts for a fraction of a second, and by the time the decision is made, the space is gone. That's the difference, not ability, timing. And when that happens repeatedly, the entire team feels it. The rhythm breaks, the structure stretches, confidence drops, not dramatically, but just enough to change how every player approaches the next moment. And that's why pressure is dangerous, because it doesn't need to create big mistakes. It just needs to slow you down. And as if the pressure inside the stadium isn't enough, there's another layer that makes this even heavier. The world is watching, because this isn't just a home tournament. It's a global stage where every performance is seen, judged, and remembered almost instantly. And that changes everything. Because now the United States isn't just playing for itself. It's playing under a spotlight that compares every action to teams that have done this before. Teams like Brazil, Argentina, and France don't just compete in the World Cup. They define what success looks like. And that standard doesn't adjust. So every moment becomes a test. A good performance isn't just appreciated, it's questioned. Can they repeat it? Can they sustain it? Can they do it when the pressure gets higher? And a bad moment? It spreads instantly. Because global perception doesn't wait for context. It reacts. That's the reality of this stage. Because when millions of people are watching, every hesitation feels bigger, every mistake looks sharper, and every decision carries more weight than it normally would. And once that perception starts to form, it becomes part of the game itself, not just something happening outside of it, but something that players feel, even if they don't say it. And that's what makes this moment different. Because now, it's not just about handling the game, it's about handling how the game is seen. And after everything builds, it always comes down to this: the moment. Not the full match, not the overall performance, just one sequence where everything is decided. Because at the World Cup, games don't unfold evenly. They turn. Suddenly, imagine it. The score is level. The tension is high. The crowd is louder than ever. But the space on the pitch feels smaller with every second. Every pass matters. Every movement is tracked. There's no margin left. And then it happens. A loose touch. A quick interception. A transition that develops faster than expected. This is it. One decision. Do you play forward immediately or hesitate for control? Do you step in aggressively or drop back to protect? That choice doesn't just affect the moment. It defines it because there's no reset. If the decision is right, the game opens. The crowd explodes. Momentum shifts. If it's wrong, even by a fraction, the chance is gone. Or worse, it turns against you. That's the reality. Because players don't get remembered for everything they do. They get remembered for moments like this. And for the United States, hosting at home, that moment carries even more weight. Because now, it's not just a football decision. It's a moment tied to expectation, pressure, and everything that has been building around this team. And when it arrives, there won't be time to think, only time to react. And maybe that's what makes this moment so dangerous. Because playing at home isn't just an advantage, it's a responsibility that doesn't go away. For the United States, this isn't just another World Cup. It's a statement, a chance to prove that everything built over the past decade actually leads somewhere. That the talent, the development, the belief, all of it is real when the pressure reaches its highest point. But the World Cup doesn't reward belief. It tests it, and sometimes it breaks it. Because when expectation rises this fast, it doesn't leave space for growth. It demands results immediately. It demands clarity in moments where everything feels chaotic. And that's the risk. Because this team might be ready, or it might be close, but not enough. And at this level, that difference is everything. Because history doesn't remember almost. It remembers what happens when the moment arrives. So when the 2026 World Cup begins, when the stadiums are full and the noise reaches its peak, there won't be any more build-up. No more theory, just reality. And in that reality, we'll finally see what this team really is. So be honest, is playing at home going to lift them? Or is it the pressure that finally breaks them?